Hi, in this video I will show you how to put together the Orchid box card, which is an SVG file from Simply Crafty SVGs. Well, there's a little bit more to this card. I made this Orchid box card SVG file a few years back, and I always wanted to make sure I did an assembly video because I know a lot of people have purchased this card in the past, and anyway, so I wanted to do an assembly video. Well, in the course of me taking a look at this, I always look for improvements. So things have changed on this card. I would say for the better based on what I know today. I also did a couple things to this card file. So if you have it currently, you can go ahead and re-download it by just logging into your account. It's Simply Crafty SVGs to get the newest file. If you have trouble with that, you can always contact me via the contact form. But for those that are not familiar with the card, you already saw the card picture at the intro, but here's a couple different versions. So this is the original size, and you can see here's another one. So here's another. This is the modification. So we have a couple extra panels in the file now. So right here it folds flat. So each one will fold flat, and it fits. The original file that I made fits into an A9 envelope, which is a rather large envelope. So, but it's a standard envelope that you can buy off the shelf. So that's that one. And you can see how different you can get with different colors. So I'm not going to show you how to put together this specific one. I just curled this. But I just wanted to show you that's another panel variation in the extra folder. So when you're looking at the files, when you unzip the files and you go into SVG files, there's going to be SVG files for the larger original version, and then it'll say 5x7 because we have a new smaller size. I just resized this down to fit into an A7 if somebody doesn't want to do a really large card. So it's the same exact version, just resized down appropriately, so it'll size appropriately to be put in that envelope. And you know, those envelopes are all available for free, the SVG files from our website. Most people probably already have it, the basic envelope set. If you're looking at our PDF file, this is the second page of the PDF file. You'll notice that the original file are these panels. So the PDF file is always helpful because it gives you the width. You only need the width to resize it if you have some issues with sizing, which with Cricut iOS, that's an issue. The app, but we have help on our Cricut help page. But anyways, in the original file, the main files, you will see just the regular panels, which is like this card. It's these side panels, the front panel, side panel, and we have 4 different tags now that you can put your own sentiment, whether you stamp it or you could always write it with your machine. And then we have a little back panel to put on. So you'll see that when we put it together. But these are the panels. So we have a lattice panel and a circle panel as well. So those are alternatives, and those aren't in the main file, so you'll have to look in the extra stuff folder when you unzip the file. So with that said, let's go ahead and start. But previously I only had written instructions for this. So we're going to do a couple different versions. So these are the pieces. So this is the insert and the card. These are all the panels. And I decided, even though it's white in the file, to make my back panel for writing will be yellow for this one. And then all the pieces. We also added additional piece for the stem. That's this to strengthen the insert. So if you're using thinner paper or not as thick, I use 80 pound textured American Crafts cardstock. Anyways, it helps to strengthen it, and you'll see. I'll talk about it. So those are those pieces, and then you have the flower pieces. So I already put the orchids together here, so I have my little embellishment bowl that I use. Already took one of the tags and put a sentiment on it. And then here are a couple of the other tags. So it's up to you what you want to use. So I'm going to show you how to put together a flower, but these are some that are put together for this one. And all the pieces you need. So before we get started on this one, let me show you how to basically put together the actual flower. So they're all the same. There's going to be 3 of each. So there's going to be 3 of these, 3 of these, and 3 of these. Okay, so this is for this card. This is what it looks like. So I did all my little inking or my little drawing of this, like the details on this. So let me get this out of the way. So I did whatever I wanted to do to enhance the color, whether you want to ink it or this one in particular. I used a technique with embossing ink and Pearl-Ex powders. So I just playing around with some things on each of my versions here. So once you get them inked, or whatever you use on them to maybe give them extra color, or you can just use solid ones, it doesn't really matter. If you're going to use solid, I might use a different color for this middle part, how the file is set up with a different color. But I wanted it to have the same color and just add some enhancements. So how I usually curl my flowers, so you can do them flat, but curling kind of enhances them. So I'm going to get this out of my way. And I use this tool, and you could use any like round or small tool, even if you have like a round, I forget what they're called, but skewer. You could use that to do it. But I just kind of go around the edges, and I'm just using my really old wooden stylus I've had for a while. And just gently curl it in a way that appeals to you. So let me put this in view so you can see how I did that one. So this one, I'm just going to curl this. And there's others that are so much versed at this. If you know my designs, if you don't know me, I'm not really a huge flower maker, because there's so many other people that can do this better than me. But when I do make a design with flowers, I try to do my best, but it's not my strong point, I would say. So I'm just kind of curling it around gently so it doesn't tear. It doesn't have to be perfect. So there, you'll notice this file kind of slants down one way, so if you can kind of see it, it slants down. So you want 2 edges go like that down. So that's the part you want towards the bottom. And it's going to go like this, and it's going to slightly go over this. See that little point right there? We're going to move it over that and put it there. So as I glue this, I'm just going to make sure this is oriented down. I'm going to add a little glue on the back of this. And then I'm going to kind of place it so you can barely see. I'm going to go over that little middle part. I know my hand's covering it. There we go. And you want to barely see those two petals behind there. So you can see I curled that slightly different. So it's whatever looks good to you. And then this one person asked me, or sent me a note asking if you curl it, will it lie flat? Well, basically it will. I mean, it may flatten in the mail, but what I tend to do with my cards is I usually flatten them the way I want. So I'm going to pull that one up. And then I actually take a piece of paper, just like a letter size usually, and trying to fold it in half to protect any elements a little bit and put it over. But other people put them in padded envelopes. If you put it in a padded envelope, obviously it's not going to flatten it. But if you want to use one of our standard envelopes, you have to think about that. A lot of the time I give these cards, I hand carry these type of cards lightly in envelopes so they're not that flattened. So that's an issue with all dimensional box cards. So I'm just going to go ahead and add glue to this back piece. And we're going to go ahead, and you can kind of see where I'm placing it. And you can kind of make your decision where you want to place it. Kind of bit towards the bottom. Up or down, it's not a huge deal, but you can see the difference there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and finish this card off. So I'm just going to add a little glue there just to add this. So, but I wanted to show you. We'll have one other. That's not the only time that I will show you how to put these together. When I do the smaller card, I will show you. I'll show you another flower. So there's that one with the lattice work. So you can see we have those different versions. And I haven't put a tag on that one, obviously. So I wanted to have a few cards around anyways for when I wanted to give somebody a card. It's always a good birthday card, or get well, or thinking about you. I'm going to send one of them to my aunt or aunts, I don't know, but I'm going to send one of them for sure to a family member that I miss seeing. So I'm using art glitter glue. If you don't use it, it's a glue that just a little bit goes a long way. I do use other glues, but this is the one I'm using for mostly these days. So I already did these, so I always use these embellishment bowls to hold my little items until I'm ready to put them, to assemble everything. So now that we showed you how to put the flowers together, which I know will take you longer, let's go ahead and put parts of this card together. So rather than do the card first, let's go ahead and do this little insert. So there's little scores, there's little tabs here, and when we put it in the card, that's how it'll attach. This is the part that's going to reinforce. So it's going to make that skinny part stronger. So we're just going to add that. So what I found, because I'm making, obviously you can tell I made a lot of these, is when I put this piece on, I'm going to show you two ways. On the smaller card, I'm going to show you how you can put this directly on like this and add glue to this bottom piece, or we can layer these two pieces and the leaves first and then put them on. So it's up to you. So that doesn't, I don't know where that goes, so I'm just going to put a little glue there. And then what I found by doing it a couple times is to line this up, the leaves up. If you can get the leaves lined up, you don't want to push down until you're ready to. Then you can start lining this up. You could always start at the top here too. So you can see I'm off a little bit down there. So it's a good time to tell you if you're off a little bit. You can always take a black marker, and that's what I'll do. You could either, we're going to put the leaves on next. You can see that I can see the purple a little bit. So these are the things I do all day, all the time, if I make like a little mistake like that where I didn't line it exactly up. I might just pull this down just a little bit because it's the same color, you're not going to notice it, but it'll hide the purple. Does that make sense? So we're going to put the leaves on first and then the stem. So on the smaller card, what we'll do is put all the green parts together first and then put it on the insert. But it's up to you. You can just do it piece by piece like this directly on the insert. So you see I just kind of went down a little bit and it hid that part. And what you'll notice is I not inked this. These ones I used chalk, because I still use conventional chalk. This is cut in the middle to emulate kind of a little middle stem. I actually just kind of parted it a little bit and put some ink on it. And you can do ink or chalk. And I chalked a little bit around the edges and on top to give it a little yellowing color. I'm looking at the orchids online. I noticed that usually the color of the stems have a little yellowing to it. So, and again, out there's probably people that do the color thing way better than I do as far as the mixed media and all that fun stuff. It takes a lot of practice. And then the reason I put those on first is that the stem will go over those sections. It's not a huge deal, but I think it makes a little bit of a difference. So when I put this piece on, I tend to line it up at the top first and then pull it down. Because if you go from the bottom up and then these are a little bit off, it's going to be more noticeable in the top than it will the bottom. So it's up to you. If you try both ways, see which one works better for you. And I kind of line it up, go around, put my fingers around the edge to line it up to the bottom. So I'm going to end up putting all the flowers on before I actually put the insert in. So we're going to dump these out. And even though I did these with, for people that might be wondering, I used mister, a type of mist, like a glitter mist. That's what I used because I had a bunch in my stash. So this card was my stash thing. So I actually sprayed it multiple times so it really got wet, so it was hard to curl because it was the mist actually makes it stiffer. And then I used a white pen and a yellow pen to get those highlights on those big petals. And I used the same pen there, and then little accents of liquid pearls. I was just playing around. I mean, I like the way it came out. It's not that refined, but I still like it. So we have a little bud up here and a larger bud. So we'll put those on. And I can see it. My lined up thing was a little bit off up here, but it's okay. It kind of makes it thick. One thing I want to note that if you didn't want to, you could always put just the leaves in that large green piece. That's up to you. But I think this strengthens it. So you see, it doesn't move as much, and I'm going to put these flowers on it. So you can just put them on. This is normally what I would do, is just dry fit them and see where they land. I mean, you can go at an angle like that, because you know, you've seen some go like that and kind of follow the curve. So really there's no rule or anything. And there's two ways you can do it. You can add glue to this, or you can add glue to this back piece. I just recommend that if you're going to do it on this piece, that you have something, make sure there's nothing underneath this piece. Like if you already put it together, make sure there's a piece of paper just in case you don't want glue to be on an item below it. So if you decide to put the insert in before you like if you just wanted to put this in without the flowers, and then you put the insert in, and then you put the flowers on at the very end, you make it glue on your card. So that's what I'm trying to say. I'm having a hard time saying it. So every card I did was a little bit different, the way I put the flowers. You could use a glue gun too. I mean, I use my art glitter glue just as long as I wait long enough. That's another way of doing it. Once I know where the first one goes, the second one I usually put it on the stem. And I'm not really like, I'm just kind of saying, putting it on the way that I think visually it looks okay to me. I want that down just a little bit. And you can let that sit to the side and dry a little bit, but came out pretty good. So now we'll go ahead and we're going to put the panels on. So these are just the standard panels. So the standard file, the way the complete file comes, and all the standard files not in the extra folder are these. And this. So again, in the actual folder, in the actual file, this is the back panel. But I decided to match it up, so you can change any of the colors of the files. This is white in the file though, but I made it yellow, so that would be my back message panel. So the way this is folds is like that, this. And one of the enhancements, if somebody has the old file, or had the older version, and you could always save that before you download this because I totally updated it, is I used to not have this shape down here. It just used to be the panel, but now I put the shape down here to help put the top panels on. So here's the card. That's how it'll come together. We're going to add the panels first. So this would be the back. So I'm going to add the back panel. So what you can do is, if you know, you might have a white version, but something to write a message on, or you can make a smaller, your own shape on the back. That's up to you. But I always say I have to have something to go with the file, because you need to be able to write on it if you want to, or you just omit it. But if you do use it, you might want to put it on first, because everything's easier to put on flatter. And I used a 5x7 embossing folder. It was a Cuttlebug one, which unfortunately Cricut's no longer making Cuttlebug products. This kind of was a fun one, I thought. So it didn't fit all the way to the bottom, but you wouldn't see it. This is going to be on the inside as well as the back. Have a consistent look and feel. So if you use solid colors for the panels, you can always emboss them. That's always fun. And I love embossing folders. Let's get this out of the way because it's causing me some issues with sometimes when I have something in view, it focuses strange. We're not going to put the second panel on. That goes on after we put the card together, so we can hide the tab, and I'll show you that. So we'll go ahead and put, just watching my video to make sure it's not, yeah, I do watch the video while I put it in. So the default panels center, but there's the ones that for circles and lattice actually go to the edge. So if you did want it to go to the edge, you could always look in the extra folders. So I put those on first. The next one will be centered here. So this one fits perfectly. I didn't put an offset on this. So we're just going to line it up. I kind of just make sure at the top this lined up bottom and the little sides down here. So you can see. And then the last little piece would be this. So you could either pop that up. I don't have it embossed. I wanted it to look different than the rest of it. Like it's the edge of, so it's, I mean, it's like the bottom edge of a pot. So there's that. So it goes together. Once you get the flowers done and all that, it actually goes together quite quickly. And then we'll go ahead and we're not going to close it yet. What we're going to do, and it may seem tricky, but I used to do is with my box cards is close it and then have you try to put it in there, because that's the way I was taught. Well, over time I'm like, there's got to be a better way, easier way. So for me, this is the easier way. So it's upside down, so the front's there. So the insert's going to be towards, obviously, the table. And these fold back. These are going to go, so we're just going to put glue on the right-hand side, one. You could do this from the right or left, but it's just a little bit different from both sides. I'll do the second card, which will be a smaller version, on the left side so you can see how it's different. So the thing here is that you kind of want to go towards the top. Because the reason you want to go a little bit towards the top here and not too far down, so you want to line that top piece up here, and then you want to make sure that this edge right here is just not quite to the fold here. Okay, once we get it down, I like to flatten it, and then just making sure that it's lined up all the way across. So when it glues the other tab, it'll glue fairly straight across. So if you can see, I have a little bit of a gap, and the only reason I do that is if you don't have that, it's not going to clear. This leaf won't clear, and it barely does. But I'll show you that you want to go a little. You can go a little bit higher if it doesn't clear. But if you fold the box card a certain way every single time, that's not going to be a problem at all. So, okay. So now we have that. So what we're going to do is fold this one back. So you're going to fold it back, and you're going to add glue to it. So now we're going to carefully fold this over. You want to make sure it's straight at the bottom and applying pressure to it. I'm just waiting for a second. I'm going to fold to the left. So you see how it kind of hits there because it's not quite low enough. If you fold to the left hand side, it'll always clear, so it'll never be a problem. You see it's slightly above it. It might just slightly touch. So the higher you get this little insert on the edge, the better for this card. So that's in, and I can see that the insert's in the way we want. So now all I'm going to do, I'm going to be careful about this. I'm going to fold this. I've got to turn it around so you can see it. I'm going to fold that in, so you're not pulling it up that much. See this right here? We're going to go ahead and add glue on that tab. And then just glue it on there. And just making sure it's good and secure. And that just got stuck on the top. So you want to be careful. Again, you could put this middle part without the flowers and add it last if you feel it's too bulky to work with. That's up to you. The only biggest problem is if you don't have, if you just have the stem and you're trying to put the flowers on, you just want to make sure you put something in between this and this, so if you get any glue leakage, it doesn't get onto this back piece. So we do have to add this insert panel. So what we're going to do, because this does get heavy, what you're going to do is we're going to add glue to the bottom of this. And there's two ways you can do it. You could just add glue to just the bottom piece and then see if you can lift it up a little bit, but this is the way I do it. I'm not going to do it without glue first. We want this unembossed part because the embossing folder only went here because it was a 5x7. We're going to put it, when we put glue on it, we're just going to slide it down here carefully, and then once we get in here, right there, we're just going to make sure it has about that much. It's about the same as the sides, the little gap, the offset. And then as we pull it down on the top, we will line it up so we have the same offset on the left and right. So I just wanted to show you before we did it. It's a bit of a challenge because it's a big piece. For the smaller card, it shouldn't be as much of an issue, but what we're doing is we're hiding that tab that we glued on the inside. So if you don't care about seeing that tab, because you can barely see it, it's like in here, you can always put the panel on first. That's up to you. I'm one of those people, I don't like to see the tab anytime. So I'm just gonna carefully put it down there. So I got it in, I'm getting it in place. So if I can, I know you can barely see it, but then making sure that it's centered left and right, and the top looks about the same. And I can't, it's much easier when you don't have to deal with the camera. So let me get that up. So because I was worried about you guys seeing it, so I get it down. So just make sure you can see it. My issue is the camera, making sure you can see it. So there it is. And then I have this little tag that I created that I can put up here, I can put down here, but I'm going to put this one down here. I just used double-sided foam tape, and you could put it towards the bottom, towards the top, however you want to do it. I'm just going to put it right here. I'm going to just put it up a little higher. I use some old, I've had them forever, these little gemstone brads. I don't even know where I got them. I've got brads you wouldn't believe, because I've been doing this for years. So sometimes I can't tell you where I get things. So that's it. That's the primary, the default version of the card. So we'll move on, and I'll show you one version of the alternate panels, and using the 5x7 size card. So here's the smaller version. So it's the same card, except a little smaller. The same panel. So I've already put on that panel, that message panel in the back. So that's no different. So those two. So when it comes to the panels, here's the difference in the card. It's these panels, so you can choose to put these directly on this if you just want the background to be solid, or you could use this background panel. So if you wanted that, but you know, I'm looking at it, and then oftentimes when I put the things together, kind of look at it and go, which one do I like better? In this case, I actually like it without the panels behind there. But that's these alternate versions, they go like that. So like this, like that, and then the same, the big panels go in the same place. I just accidentally cut that one out. And then like that. So this one will just go like this, and then of course the flower's the same. It's just smaller. I just needed to make sure that this cut out okay, which it did, with those small cuts. I cut it on Cricut and the Eclipse, so I'm sure the silhouette would be fine. It's just a matter of finding the sweet spot for these more intricate cuts. So I'm going to do it without this. But if you wanted to have it on, the only difference is we would put these on, we would glue this to the back panel first and then onto there. But I like the look of it with this color scheme. But we're going to use the patterned papers for the back. So, but that's what that file contains. Wanted to make sure I showed you that. So we're going to put those aside. So just as we did earlier, we're going to show you how to put the flowers together. So here are this is basically the same file, just smaller version. A lot of people will prefer the smaller version. So it's the same tags that are included. In the original file, that was the only tag, and it was much bigger. So what you will notice, I had already inked these, and I thought that here are the ones that are already inked. So I inked everything but one flower. So you can see one way that you can color. I did it several ways, but this is with Distress Oxide. It would be the same with Distress ink. So you can see this is what the flower will look like. I have it, not, of course it'll be curled. So I have 2 done and 2 that aren't. We actually have almost 2 done. I did this piece right here. So let's just say we have 2 done. So this is what it's going to look like. So I just wanted to show those that may not be familiar with it how I did that. So what I used was Distress Oxide. It's a Ranger product, and I used worn lipstick and pickled raspberry for the pink portions. So the way we'll just start with that. So I'm gonna, this is my little Distress ink tool holder that's in the store, and then I have my inks, which is my large ink holder. So it's actually quite I actually just take it out like this and pull out what I want. I need to redo my labels here, but that's how I organize mine, and it's in my drawer, and I just pull the whole thing out when I need to use them. So here I'm just going to start with the lighter version, which is worn lipstick, and I'm just going to gently rub from the edge in. And for the top part is the one with the little divot in it. So you want to go further down on that one. There's nothing really, it's all just your preference of what you want it to look like. And the reason I'm going with the light ink first, and I don't really need to hit the bottom pieces that much. And the reason you don't is because it'll be mostly covered by this. So you can see how much it covers. I'm going to have it wrong. The angle part's down. So you see how much it covers? So I'm just doing a little bit of pink on the bottom. Really the top is what's going to make a difference. And then once I have the light in there, actually let's do the light on this too. So we want to do this light as well on the bottom part. And you see it kind of stays on the, if you use a craft mat like this, which I always use a craft mat, or like a, there's a lot of ink that stays on there, so you can kind of re-ink it while you do it. But I usually use a craft mat when I'm doing this kind of stuff. And then just on the other side of it, I'm going to use now pickled raspberry. I don't need to use pickled raspberry. I do use, I'm not going to use it on this. So that's the purplish seedless preserves. So I just want to get the top edge. I just want it to be a darker pink on the sides and edges. You kind of can see if I'm comparing. See, I even made it even darker than this one. So I'm just going to match it up a little bit. If they're off a little bit, it's just, nobody will notice. It actually will give it contrast. So I'm also doing the bottom edges of these, just these 2 pieces, because it'll be seen underneath. So if you want to know what it looks like, again, just put that over like that. And then the final thing is to, so that's pickled raspberry I use for the darker pink, and worn lipstick. I'm just going ahead and putting them away. Then I'm going to use a different distress tool. You see all my different colors. They dry after a while, so I just reuse them for the same color schemes. This is seedless preserves, and I'm only going to use that on the middle piece. On the, I forget what the name is. I wish I could pay attention to what the name is. So I'm trying to go a little bit further away from where that pink was, so it doesn't come off the the matte. I'm trying to match it up and make it a little darker. So there's lots of ideas you can get color scheme wise if you look at real orchids. This is probably not even like a real orchid, but I like the color scheme, so I went with it. Sometimes I just go with stuff you like rather than what's right or wrong. I know there's color theory and all that fun stuff, but not always something I'm good at. So I'm going to put these away, move my inks away, and then we're going to go ahead and, so I don't get any ink on things that don't need to get ink on, we'll go ahead and put these together. So just like, oh, just so you know too, I did these little pieces. So don't forget those little pieces if you're going to do inking. So I inked them with the light color. So it's the same thing as we did with the bigger one. We're just going to go ahead and curl it. So we'll do this one. This one just got kind of, remember we're going to want to the bottom, the most angled portion of it will be towards the bottom when you put these together. So I'm just going to curl them. And if you just want to slightly do it because you're going to put it in the envelope. And we're going to do the same for the bigger, the other portion of it. So I'm going to do all these pieces at once. So I'm doing something a little bit different. Normally I don't show some of the steps like the inking, but since I did a lot of different versions with ink and chalk ink recently, I thought, well, I might as well show people what I did. I watch a lot of other videos and just for technique like this, and I feel it's helpful. Whether I help you or not, maybe that leads you to a different YouTube video. I guess that's my point. I hope some find this helpful because a lot of people got this file and it was my old written instructions, but I know it's kind of hard when you're reading the actual instructions, and I did have a typo in it, I found out, and not be able to see it being done. If you do like my files or you like this file, please give me a little like below on the video. I would appreciate it. It does help, and also it lets me know that you like this project. And hopefully those that have it already like the enhancements that they'll get for free. You don't have to pay for it. So I'll finish these and then we'll put them together. And I'm not going to go ahead and make you watch me put them together, but we'll go ahead and just layer the flowers like we did the first card, and then I'll be back momentarily. Okay, we're just going to give you some options on how to put it together. So just one more time, I wanted to put one more flower together, just making sure the angle pieces are in the bottom. So if it's angled, that should go on the bottom. It'll just slightly go over that middle. Remember, the top is that little dipped thing, and these are two smaller petals. So we'll go ahead and add a dab of glue to the middle here. Let's just move that aside. I just want to make sure if there's glue still showing, that's okay, because I'm going to actually add that middle part. Let's see how that goes, and then we'll go ahead and add glue to about right there. You see I curled those, and I just kind of pull them up a little bit and curled at the bottom. So those are the three flowers. So I'm going to show you the way that you could do it without putting these on if you don't want those to be in your way. So I'm just putting them into a little embellishment bowl. So with this one, I took the large piece, the green piece, and put the two leaves on it already. And then I added these, so we're just keeping it flat. We'll go ahead and just add this top piece. Then once we get these two together, we will put it on the insert. Got a little glue on my mat. So as if with before, I'll just go from the top, line those pieces up there, make sure they're lined up. And then just follow it down. So putting your fingers around the edges help. Then we'll just attach this to here. So you could put glue on this piece if you wanted. I prefer to put majority of my glue on the piece I'm putting it on, because if I drop that top piece, I've done it so many times with glue on it, I could ruin the bottom piece and the top piece, or one of them, and have to recut it. So that's the reason why I don't do it that way. Then I just have to add a little glue down here. So this is where we you can line it up from the top. You could do it from the top. I did it from the bottom last time. So let's line it from the top. Just kind of have to use it, keep it suspended. See, I think it's harder when you're putting it on the insert, but everybody's individual, so I like to show different ways. And I got a little bit of glue down there because of the movement here. Just making sure that move that up a little bit. I just had it in the wrong place. Okay. Now we got that getting together. I already put not the inside panel, but I already put these other panels, these two panels on. And remember, I decided not to use the background panel, so the little pattern panel, but that's an option you have. So the way they basically just fit exactly onto the panel. So as you can see, the same exact size. What I suggest is a fine tip applicator is going to be your friend here, because you need to put a really light amount of glue, and if you don't have one, maybe you have a paintbrush around where you could put a little glue on a craft mat and then just paintbrush it lightly. Some people use spray glue or Xyron machines, so it's up to you how you want to do that. But when it comes to intricate designs, yeah, it can be a challenge. A Zig pen is another pen that I've used, which is a really fine tip pen. Can get to it right now. I'll show you after I get this on. It's nice because it's got a pen tip, but I find I can do most things with this. The only challenge is when you put it on, so I'm going to explain that before this dries. When you put it on, start from like the bottom edge or the top edge, because we want to line it up so there's not much movement. Once you just want a little bit of leeway to be able to get it into spot place so they line up on the top and bottom and sides. And I just had a little glue leakage right there, just because I went a little heavy. So I always have my little slightly damp paper towel to fix that. Then I put foam tape on the back of the bottom piece of this pot panel. We'll just go ahead, it just pops it up for dimension. So now we'll go ahead, and I'm going to do this. I hadn't folded this yet, so let's go ahead and fold it. We're going to do it slightly different. We're going to attach the insert the same way, obviously without flowers. But we're going to fold them back, but we're going to attach it on this side first. So make sure it's upside down, because you want it to face like this. So upside down. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to go towards the top again. And that's important because these leaves need to clear these edges. So we're going to go ahead and add glue to this. So I'm folding it back so I can just glue it. I'm going to fold it back flat. And we're going to put it as pretty high and close to this left right here. So you don't have to do it right up to it, but close to it, just to the right of it. Just scooching it up just a little bit more. And then I'm flattening it and making sure that it's pretty straight across the top. So I'm making sure this top edge lines up with the top edge of these panels. So it's the same concept, it's just different how it folds. It's just different when it comes to gluing that final piece. So now remember, this has to be folded back like that with the glue. And then we'll do this. And then just making sure that's lined up down there. And this might be the easier way for you. You can see, there it is. And a lot of people are going to like this size better. It's one of the reasons why I decided to make the addition to the file. I actually like the size. Then, so this is a little bit easier. Go ahead and add glue to that tab, fold it over. We're going to add that inside panel. So this is where not having the flowers is a little bit helpful, because we're still going to do the same thing. We're going to have to put glue on the back and kind of angle it down to get it in the right place. You know, get it so it's like about right there. So we're going to do that. So this might be beneficial not putting flowers on, but then I'll just show you what I would do if I were you to put the flowers on last. So this is a really light piece of paper, so I'm gonna, if it were cardstock, it'd be less apt to bend on us here. So I'm just making sure that there's pretty even along all sides. And then I can reach in from the bottom like that. And now it covered that tab that we glued on the inside, which is nice. Like a nice finished look. So now, and I like to fold it to the left. I think it's the best way to fold this card. If you're going to put the flowers on, get a piece of like scrap paper or a craft mat, put it underneath, and decide how you're going to put it on. That's up to you. Because if I add glue to that, I'm not going to know where I'm going. So, I mean, I would, but I wouldn't at the same time. So I'm going to do that. So if it gets on anything, it's going to get in this piece of paper. And then we can add the other flowers. So if you want to put it on the glue on this, which I kind of like, but it doesn't matter if you put it there. You can put them close to each other and angle them a little bit differently. I'm not going to be like very accurate in how an orchid. I'm just trying to make it look as good as possible. So now I'm just going to make sure that it doesn't stick there. See, there was a little glue leakage, but now it's dry. So that helped that issue, and now we have this cute little card. So I do like it. I hope you like it in the new size. This will fit into an A7 envelope, which is one of the envelopes in the basic envelope set. So then the fun part is, if you could always write something on one of these tags, use the tags or your own sentiment. I'm leaving a lot of the sentiments off the card for now, but normally they're white, but I decided this one would be good to have a darker one, so I'm probably going to put something here. Or earlier I put one up here, but you could put anything you have, of course, or size them down or up, whatever, or angle them, anything like that. So now you can see all the different versions we made. So I made this version. I thought this would be fun for like a get well, or it actually has like a dark color that might be a nice wedding one. I had used stickles on that. And then of course the one we put together. Obviously I'm going to make it for her birthday. And then these lattice versions. So I'm just going to keep it because I think it's always good to have a couple cards on hand. And I'm probably going to put, I like the idea of putting a sentiment here, but I do like it here as well. And then of course, if you want to see side by side, really the size difference, there's the one we just made, and then the one from earlier with the circle panels. So, and you see I put a tag up there, just happy birthday tag, that somebody can display if they like. So again, if you did like this, in this project, in this video, please give me a little thumbs up and or subscribe to our video. And I thank you for watching.